Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi everyone, welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host Phyllis Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our grandparents, our parents, and our loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network, it's known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity. And tonight, for our guest, we have Devon Harris. So Devon's background is really quite impressive to me. So Devon was born on Christmas Day, 1964, and he was raised in a violent ghetto environment in Kingston, Jamaica. And the greatest gift Devon Harris says he ever received was belief that a positive attitude and never say die philosophy would carry him farther than a sense of injustice and a heart filled with anger. He's a graduate of the prestigious Royal Military Academy Sandhurst in England and received a Queen's Commission in December 1985 and served in the Officer Corps of the Jamaican Defence Force until December 1992 when he retired as a captain. He was selected to be the first Jamaican bobsled team captain, which competed in the 1988 Olympic Games in Calgary, Canada, and their exploits inspired the Disney blockbuster movie Cool Runnings. He's been inducted as an Olympian for life by the World Olympian Association for his significant contribution to society. He's the author of the motivational children's book, Yes, I Can, and the semi-autobiographical motivational book, Keep on Pushing, Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. I heard Devon speak at an event in San Diego almost 2 years ago. It was March 2024. And I really was inspired by his talk, Keep on Pushing, and thought it would be an apropos conversation as it applies to our life's journey. So I'm so thrilled to have Devon here with me this evening.
Phyllis, thank you so much for having me. How's it going?
It's going pretty well.
Good.
We haven't seen each other for a while. And I just realized today, wow, it's just about 2 years. It was the end of March 2020.
Yeah, I was walking with a cane then. I just, a few months before that, had double knee replacement surgery. So brand new.
But 2 knees at least, 2 new knees, right? I don't know about the rest, but 2 new knees.
Yes, that's cool. 2 new knees. Best knees money can buy, I hear.
Right, and I had a hip replacement surgery in December of this past year, December 3rd, and I think yours was December 8th. So we can actually celebrate our surgical anniversaries together next week.
Love it.
So, as I was saying, I really was inspired by that talk, Keep on Pushing. So do you want to talk a little bit about I mean, it's not just about bobsledding, right? And the
Sure.
fact that you push a bobsled, I'm sure a lot of maybe listeners and viewers, paid attention to the Winter Olympics, that were the last couple of weeks. And obviously you push a bobsled in order to get it going. But what inspired you to really come up with that phrase as it applies to life?
Well, that's the thing. I am a bobsledder, Phyllis, and that's all what we know to do. We know to push things. But yeah, so the term keep on pushing really has a bobsled analogy. Is when you're watching a bobsled race, the start, well, to the untrained eye, they probably think it's one massive effort to push that sled. And sure, at the very beginning, there's this massive effort, but there's a process. So you don't just push and stop. After you've gotten over the initial inertia, you have to keep on pushing. Because theoretically, if you stop after that initial surge, the sled could probably just come to a stop, So you have to keep on pushing to explode and go as fast as you can. But here's the thing. I think that even after you've gotten in the sled and you're heading down the track, in a real way, you're still pushing. You're pushing against the ice conditions, the twists and turns of the track. You're pushing against the weather conditions. And you're also pushing against the limits of your own abilities. You're trying to do better than what you did previously. Every single one of us, So if you extrapolate that and to life, you can see the similarities. We're always striving to do better than what we did before. Always, as human beings, we are created to grow in some way, shape, or form, right? So, you're talking about senior living here, but once upon a time, we're all infants and toddlers. And
Right.
It was kind of a natural process in terms of our growth and us pushing from one level of life to the next. And as we got older, we started to understand more about the world and start to, make our own way in the world. We're pushing. We're push ourselves through high school, through college, from one goal to the next. Although people may not necessarily think of it in terms of pushing,
Right.
but that's what we're doing. Not just overcoming the challenges, because that's the thing. Between us and any goal that we have are obstacles. They're inevitable. And to get them, or to get at them, to achieve them, we have to find a way to push those suckers out of the way or push ourselves over, around, or through them. So there's that idea of getting past the challenges in our way. But there's that idea of also growing into the people that we need to grow into to be able to achieve what we are setting our minds to achieve. So there's transformation, there's change, which is again a very natural part of life.
Right.
So yeah, keep on pushing applies to life way beyond the bobsled track.
Right. So I last week we had a conversation based on this video where this gentleman was saying that after the age of 70, the best time is to stay home and slow down. And, you've all fulfilled your life, many of the responsibilities in life, family, or whatever those responsibilities were. Some people choose not to have those responsibilities, but work responsibilities. And, it didn't resonate so much with me, but in even right before this started, this conversation on the show, it dawned on me that, my experience in long-term care, that there are people that are still pushing. If you're pushing past an illness, pushing to overcome, like you said, whatever challenge it is. And then there are people who don't. And so it's not something that stops at a certain point. It's not necessarily always pushing to be ambitious or to achieve a goal. I mean, it can be, but it doesn't always have to be that. So what's your take on that?
So it's an interesting take that this gentleman has, about getting to 70 and staying at home. I guess my initial reaction would be to do what? Right. Because if you think about it, we spend our lives, working and growing and then having our families and supporting our families and working towards retirement. Now, I don't know what the retirement age is because it's Is it 67? I don't know, because I haven't been thinking about retirement. I don't know what that looks like, right? I think I'm going to be working until 97 instead of 67, right? So let's say you retire at age 67. If we were to take this gentleman's point of view, so then you basically you worked all your life for a 3-year window before you put yourself out to pasture and wait to die, you know. Look, for some people, the idea of staying home and doing nothing at age 70 and beyond may work for them. It's kind of like when you think of how one would define success. You know, my definition of success would be different from your definition of success. So, you know, at that age, one's definition of retirement and being active and living a meaningful life may be different from someone else.
Right.
But I've heard stories of so many people who have worked all their life and then they retire and they're not doing anything and they die in short order because there was no meaning to their life.
Right.
So even if it's not this grand, noble purpose of trying to save the world, you know, they had the thing that probably brought meaning to their lives was this idea of going out and providing for my family. And now that that's gone, what do you do? And that's where the pushing, and it's not necessarily pushing to achieve another audacious goal, climb Mount Everest type of goal, but rather transforming, because now you've gone from being a toddler to a young adult to a middle-aged person to now a retiree, but you're still alive, and so your life has to count for something, and that's where I think you push down another lane.
Right.
You transform and you know, whatever it is, you go volunteer at a soup kitchen, or you're taking care of your grandkids, or you're traveling the world. But to say you're going to sit at home and do nothing doesn't sound like a life worth living to me.
Well, it didn't resonate with me either. And I have a similar way of thinking as you, because people say to me, oh, aren't you retired? Or even 10 years ago, when are you retiring? I say, I really have no idea what that word means. It doesn't mean anything to me. So Tony says, not everyone defines themselves by work. True. It's the quality of the retirement you create that determines some degree of your happiness. And that's basically what you're saying, right? It's up to the individual. Now, maybe for some people, you can continue, you can continue learning. You could continue. It doesn't have, like you said, it doesn't have to be maybe some work-related ambition or some audacious goal, but you're learning an instrument, you're learning a language, but there has to, in my view, some sense of purpose. And I said, when you told me that, when we spoke the other night on the phone, I said, I've also known many, 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 many people who, yes, retired and then they thought they'd have some great retirement, but then the idea of it, and they just either had a heart attack or died or became incapacitated in some other way, because it's that transition that really can be devastating from an entire life of work and running and accomplishing to then what? It's almost like falling off a precipice, right?
Yeah. So I think we're all in agreement with Tony, that I would say the vast majority of us don't define ourselves by our work, or the vast number of people don't. And certainly when you get to age 70, I'm not saying that, keep on pushing is dictating that you go find another job or start another business. If that's what floats your boat, yes. But if you think, oh, yeah, it's time to retire, it's time to not work, that's fine as well. But how do you transition and continue to add meaning to your life? How does one define, did you say a rich retirement? whatever the term is that
Right.
Tony used. How do you define that? That's you pushing, i.e., transitioning to that new phase of your life.
You know, there was a study many years ago. I don't remember what year the study was, but it was a study in a nursing home, actually. And I forgot how many subjects were in the study, but half of the subjects were given, all the subjects were given a plant. And half of the subjects were told they were responsible for watering the plant and pruning the plant and, you know, taking care of the plant. And the other half were told that somebody would come in and take care of the plant, water the plant, whatever. And the results were that the people who were told they had to take care of the plant, that had some sense of responsibility, became more engaged. They became more social. They started coming out of their room. And why was that? Because they had a sense of purpose of taking care of something other than outside of themselves. So Lucas says, don't define quality of retirement by activity. That's true. A contemplative life is often a life worth living. 100%.
So I'm reading that, and I definitely am wholeheartedly agreeing with the first half of his statement. I'm trying to, though, understand what he means by a contemplative life. Does that mean just sitting on your rocking chair and I don't know, philosophize, or because you know, we know, and it's not just because I'm an athlete, you know, being physically active is an important part of our continued health.
Right.
You know, so I'm not sure what he means by, you know, a contemplative life. I'm not saying that, you know, in your retirement years you should be going down to the soup kitchen every day, or, you know, having a trip, you know, planned every 2 weeks or whatever it is. And maybe I am misunderstanding this gentleman who talks about, you know, when you turn 70, you should just stay at home. I'd love to have a conversation with him, because sometimes just making a statement and reading it doesn't give you all the nuances or the thought patterns behind that particular statement. But yeah, I think that there needs to be meaning to your life, regardless of age.
I agree. Maybe I'm thinking that in terms of contemplative, maybe it's even more of an introspection. Maybe it's more of a, you know, reflecting on, you know, different aspects of your life and seeing not where you can do things different, but seeing where growth opportunities as a person, not necessarily, you know, like you say, an activity outside of yourself. Maybe it's even growth in you know, growth inside yourself. So Lucas says it means thinking and reflecting on almost anything: music, art, culture, reading, observing. This isn't rocket science. Okay, well, yes, there is thinking about these things, but so my question to Lucas would be, and I'm interested in what you would say, Devon. So it's thinking about it, and then what? Like, is there an end, or you're just sitting and thinking about it? I mean, listening to music and expanding your musical horizons is wonderful, and reading books and you know, contemplating different ways of thinking is certainly you know, worthy and you know, wonderful, and worthy, you know, from an intellectual as well as an emotional point of view. But beyond contemplating, I think that's what we're saying, Devon. Then what? I mean, okay.
Exactly. So you are at home on your sofa, on your rocking chair, you're reading a book, you're listening to these amazing pieces of work. And thinking about your own life and what that journey meant to you. But who are you sharing those insights? So when you say being contemplative, are you now sharing those insights from your life. And that's what I'm referring to when I say that, it has to have some meaning, be outside of yourself, that
Right,
is,
right, right,
outside of yourself, because I think it's important that you use a term, and which is what keep on pushing is, you continue to grow. So if
right.
you're now reading and you have developed an interest in art, you're learning to play the guitar or whatever it is, but then who do you share these new gifts and talent with?
I agree. I agree because I mean that's wonderful if you continuing to grow as a person, like you say, or learn a language. But even something like that. Let's say you decide you embark on wanting to learn a language, which is actually great for continued cognitive growth, or health, I should say. But you have to speak with somebody in order
Yeah,
to really
I mean,
practice that
yeah, you're gonna sit there and just listen to Duolingo every day.
language.
You're gonna go try and test out your new skill with a real life person.
Right, right, right.
So the human interaction is, I think, is key at every area. You talk about a study. This was in World War II, and I can't remember the exact details, like where, but there are these orphans, and of course, let's say the nuns in this orphanage, they were overwhelmed, and so they had a plan. They came up with this, which made sense. They would clean and change all the kids at this hour, feed them at this hour, and it was kind of clockwork. And they didn't thrive because there was no human contact outside of the mechanical way in which they were fed and cleaned, and so you need that at that age. We need it throughout our lives, and definitely, my estimation would be that during retirement you're going to need human contact as well.
Right. So Lucas said, nothing. It's enriching. I don't have to go to concerts, museums, or travel. It's all at our fingertips. Now I can virtually share my insights with the world. What don't you get? Well, but it's still sharing.
Yeah. I didn't say that you needed to travel.
Right,
I didn't say you need to plan a trip every week, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, granted, you have technology now that allows you to connect with the world in the way that we are connecting. And so if someone can be learning and listen to new pieces of music and be interacting, and they find that meaningful and useful, who am I to complain? It's what works for you.
I agree. I was talking with somebody at work about the show tonight, and we actually talking about that very thing. And so we are people of all different backgrounds and all different ages, but they all said the same thing. Now, maybe it's because we also work in this industry, that we do, and we've seen everything that we see. But I thought it was interesting. Everyone there were about 6 people there, and everybody had the same point of view. That yes, you can connect with people's, and like I said, they were all different ages, social media and Zoom and Schmoom and all of this, but they all said the same thing about human connection and being in a place with somebody. That kind of interaction is different than on Zoom. This is kind of one-dimensional. But when you're in the presence of another person, it's a little different. Now, not everybody feels they may need that, but I thought it was interesting that we're all different ages, different backgrounds, male and female, different parts of the world, and they all had the same point of view about that. But like I said, maybe it's because we see what we see in this industry.
Yes and no. You just have to think back to a few years during the height of the COVID crisis, and this is primarily how people were communicating and connecting with others, but we could not wait to get back out to have these live interactions.
Correct.
So yes, if it works, for anybody at any age, but we're talking about retirees now, to be doing all these different activities at home and be connecting virtually, fine, if it works for you, but I don't think that's a prescription for the majority of people.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, I was saying last week, um, so Mel, who, owns this network
Hmm.
and created this, Mel and I have become quite, good friends, and we've never met. It's all by phone or Zoom or whatever. But I'm going to say now, you and I met in person,
Hmm.
and we've seen each other once or twice since then in person. And we've spoken on the phone a couple of times.
Hmm.
And we're seeing each other on Zoom now, but knowing that we've seen each other in person and having this, that's still to me different than this exchange.
Completely. I completely agree. And it's the same with, I mean, everything else, again, go back to COVID and how the world was. I'm a speaker, and, I gave many speeches right here,
Right.
but but I would like to think that I was way more effective and way more engaging when I'm on stage in a room with people. It definitely feels not just different, but way better for me
Right.
personally. But that is true on a personal level as well, when, meeting you and other people in person versus having just a phone call or a FaceTime chat.
Right. So that's and of course I've heard that before from people who are on stage for a variety of reasons. What you get from the crowd is very different. That energy, right? That
Yeah.
interaction is very different than, like you said, than speaking via Zoom, right?
Mhm.
And actually, so that oh no, it wasn't that one where we met, but 2 years before that, or 3 years, 2021 actually was the first event, the first Secret Knock event I had gone to.
Mhm.
And it was the first in-person event they had since COVID. So it's just what you were saying. People were so thrilled to be back in that environment, in person with one another, even though, I mean, that was my first event, but many of these people knew each other from before, right?
Yeah.
But yet they were thrilled to be in, physical presence with each other. It's just different. I mean, whether it's because you want to hug somebody or, sit down, have a little chat with somebody over here. It's just for me, a different kind of interaction, but probably for you too, like you're saying, what you get from the crowd when you're speaking, right?
Yeah, but beyond that, I just think that as human beings, we are made and wired to have those kind of, for want of a better term, intimate interactions, is one-on-one, one-to-one interactions. When we, um, replace that, technology cannot replace that. I think
Right.
technology can facilitate that, but it can never really replace that.
So that's what Jocelyn is saying. She says, I think you're way off from the major changes in technology. I would be interested. I have a comment after this. You keep making the assumption that meeting in person has additional value. That is a huge leap of logic. Why? You are forcing the discussion into an outdated, limiting model of human interaction. Well, that
That's interesting.
is very interesting. It is very interesting. I mean, I mean, okay, maybe it's a personal preference, and I'm wondering, I'm wondering if it has something to do with age. Actually, um, I'm wondering about that because would it be, an age difference that would feel differently about that? I mean, we're comfortable with technology, but we certainly didn't come up with that as much as people from, generations
Mhm.
behind us. Dennis saying there's no gene that suggests that we are social animals. It's simply
Well,
your opinion.
yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. Well, I'm not. I don't know that. That might be true, but that's how we're socialized, and so we could go back to the days when we ran around on the prairies and we're trying to get away from the saber-toothed tiger because we didn't want to be lunch or dinner or supper or whatever it is.
Right.
That we always walked and worked and lived in groups. Okay, you could make the argument that the primary reason for that was safety, but there was also socialization. And you think about this time of year, how many people are depressed during the cold months because it's not just that it's cold, but they're not out interacting again. So maybe there's no gene in it, but we are social beings. So I would respectfully disagree that anybody who wants to make the argument that human beings aren't social beings.
Well, I think with the advent of AI, this will also be interesting, right? Because I wonder if it's different, if it's going to talking about advancements in technology, if that kind of interaction is going to be different with an AI. I don't even know what you
powered world.
Yeah. As opposed to
yeah. Look, I mean, technology has evolved and is evolving so rapidly. And it definitely allows us to have interactions like this. But someone would be hard pressed to convince me that this is a better form of connection than you and I in a room sitting across from each other with the cameras pointing at us.
Yeah, no, I happen to agree with you that I mean, yes, it's great to be able to have this and have this at our fingertips and that we could utilize it. But yes, it's different than if you're sitting across from it. For me, I mean, I agree with you that it's just very different. And maybe it is a personal choice.
And I wouldn't argue with that. Like I said, in the same way that we will define success differently, we can define retirement differently.
Right.
But you think about if you kind of leap forward to someone retired and they, for 70 years, they were always interacting with multiple people a day because they're out working or either a job or in their business. And now that they're retired, they're not working anymore. And they now end up just listening to music, reading books, and having the occasional chat via Zoom or FaceTime. It might work for some people. I think the vast majority of people would have adverse, not benefits, but effects from that.
Right. No, I agree with you. And it's interesting how you went back to COVID because people, they had virtual dinners and celebrations and, holidays. And, and like you said, when things opened up again, people were only too happy to be in the presence of other people, whether it was family, friends, or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that demonstrates how the importance of that kind of human connection because we went through that experience.
Exactly. So whether or not there's a social gene, and there are none, but we are wired to have those, one-on-one, face-to-face interactions. Because people were going batshit crazy during COVID. They really, I was cool. I was fine. That's the thing. Was I looking forward to being out? But I could have gone on longer as well without going crazy. But I know there were people who were going crazy. The vast majority.
Right. But you also had more connection with the outside world, did you not?
Yeah. But honestly, I could have stayed home and do my talks via Zoom and adjust. I don't know. I for whatever reason, I'm conditioned, wired, trained that way as somebody who was in the military to deal with the situation that's at hand, right?
Right.
So this is what you have. Suck it up, buttercup, and move on. Don't want to, minimize the challenges that people had. People had serious mental issues being cooped up during COVID. but that reinforces my point.
Right.
This kind of connection, while valuable, does not fulfill people
Right.
in the way that being in a room with others does.
And as we're saying it, of course, it could be individual also. I'm also a communications professional, so maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm thinking back to when I had my surgery. So it was really just a few days. Well, I couldn't drive for 2 weeks, but there were a few days where I really, they told me not to really venture out. I forgot how long a period of time it was. Maybe it was a week. I'm not even sure if it might have been a week. And one day I said to my daughter, so my daughter came, she stayed with me a couple of days. I said, listen, I've got to see the outside world. I can't stay in this house anymore. Can we just drive 15 minutes up the road to like a stationery store or something? I just need to see the outside world and get some fresh air. But that could be a personal preference. And maybe for other people, they don't have that need. So, that varies maybe because of, like I say, who I am as a professional or who I am as a person, because communication is very important to me, but person-to-person communication is very important to me. And I think it's because you get a lot from it, at least for me as a communications professional, how a person, their facial expression is very different for me, even in this Zoom setting, than it is. You just pick up a lot more cues when you're in someone's presence, in my opinion. So Murray says, where are you getting this? The data suggests otherwise. Those who could finally stay at home, not wasting hours commuting, not having to pay for lunch, dry cleaning, parking. You see, there is a point to that. 62% of Gen X and Y did not want to return to the office. You're being much too selective and much too opinionated. But here's the thing. I also said, could it be related to the fact that, the age group that we're in?
So it could be. So was that Murray?
Yes.
So Murray, I think I'm on here to share my opinion. So yes, I'm going to be opinionated in that way. But I concede that it could be a generational thing as well. I think there are 2 points here, Murray. One, yes, a younger generation are more likely to want to stay home and work virtually. But for me to think that they would spend all their time working virtually and not go to meet up with a friend at a bar or barbecue or movies and so on, I would need to see the data on that. So feel free to share it. But I was just thinking, though, as you were talking, Phyllis, that if you think, again, it could be a generational thing. But regardless of generation, someone who is a social being, let's say, they're gregarious, they love the company of people, etc., in their youth, it's difficult for me to see them get to retirement age and all of a sudden become a flower on the wall, a fly on the wall, right? Maybe they may not be, they may not have the energy to be as active as they were 20, 30 years ago, but I don't see them studying, being contemplative, listening to music, etc., and be contented in just sharing those insights and experiences virtually.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And, I'm glad that Murray said that about Gen X and Gen Y, because like I said, I thought about that when the person, I don't remember if it was Lucas or not, who said about technology, because while I'm comfortable with technology, I'm sure you're technologically comfortable, but that wasn't part of our nature. Oh, somebody said to me at work yesterday, I don't remember, it was something with the phone or meetings, somebody was late or something, and he said to me, how did you manage before there were cell phones? If you were late or had to get in touch with someone? I said, I don't know.
The world moved at a different pace. That's
we just did. You got there when you got there, and you said what you said when you got there, and that was really it. But it's just what you just said. We're used to something different now. So maybe we're adapting to that, but somehow before, so maybe it is an adaptation thing. I'm not saying it isn't, but I think for those of us who maybe grew up under those circumstances, maybe we don't see it as much, or we're not as, I don't want to say we're not as comfortable with it, but maybe we need something more because of how we grew up. I don't know.
No, I think so. Technology obviously has changed, and all of us are adapting. Some, the younger generation, they were born with it and they know
Right.
that. But if you think about maybe our generation, you would not have, you'd have had a friend, family member who's in a different state, a different country even, and you guys, you stay in touch via Zoom or FaceTime or whatever. But the conversation is always, hey, when you get to town, make sure you look me up. Let's go grab coffee. Let's go grab a drink. Let's go out for dinner, right? Because it's that human connection. I have younger kids. I have kids who are Gen Z, and they are proficient with their technology, but they're still meeting up with friends.
Right. So I think that's a very good point. And I love what you just said, because it's, but let me know when you're in town. I mean, so a couple of weeks from now, I'm going back home. I've been living in Connecticut for many years. And a gal that I met just a few months ago in November at an event, she's from Germany, and she's coming to New York to do a screening of her documentary. And so I'm going home to, going back down to the New York City area so I could get a chance to see her. Now, we have spoken on the phone. We've Zoomed, we've done all of those things. But yeah, it's just what you say. She said, "Oh, you're going to be in town." I said, "Oh, I'll come home. I'll come back that weekend." That's going to be meaningful for both of us. So I think that's a very good point. People do say, "Yeah, but when you're in town," or, "Gee, I have a friend coming from wherever, from California, and we're going to spend some time together." It does take on a different, I'll say, a different flavor, right? When you're in a personal presence of someone.
Yeah. And that would be the same adventure for, the younger generation as well. They wouldn't go, you're in California, we've been chatting, you come to New York where I live now, and but I'll just call you. I'm not going to come down because this is the way we interact.
Right. So Stevenson is saying it's not just generational. And maybe it's not. I don't know. After having worked in an office with 1,500 coworkers, if I never see them again, that's fine. But it might be those people, though, Stevenson. I don't know. No, I'm just joking. But I finally can be with myself, and I'm 72. So again, your perspective is much too narrow. Okay, maybe so. Maybe it's those people. That doesn't mean.
I think it's individual. That's a challenge when you speak generally.
Right.
So Stephen, I'm kind of curious. At 72, I don't know if you're retired, but if you were, are you saying that you're happy just staying home, listening music, discovering art, and interacting with your friends and family virtually? Because this conversation started out with let's say a quote where someone was saying that once you get to 70, you should start moving around.
Right.
I don't necessarily define moving around to mean traveling and going on trips overseas or across the country and that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of curious, since I'm coming off with someone with a very narrow focus or narrow mind on the topic. You at that age, at your current age, how do you see yourself moving through the world?
Yeah, that would be.
It's nothing to do with work, no, because I get it that not everybody absolutely love their work, and if they know that they don't have to go into the office, like, perfect, I don't have to see you more. But there's, as somebody said earlier, there's way more to life than work.
Correct. And yeah, maybe you weren't fond of those people that you worked with. I mean, or that work environment. I mean, I work in a work environment that, I've worked in the industry that I'm in, and I know a lot of people, and some of them, if I never saw them again, that would be fine. But here I am in this area, upstate New York. It's like in the middle of nowhere. There isn't much here, literally isn't much here. And it's, I didn't bring this up last week when we had the conversation, but I was saying to Ken Ashby, who's going to be on next week, who joined me for the conversation about the video, that even though I was in a workplace, I'm surrounded by people, with people, there was a part of me that felt a little empty until I met some people that actually grew up near where I grew up. And then we had a connection. We talked about places, and now I've become friendly with one or two people, and we're going to get together, Gal, a nurse, we think the same way. But like I said, maybe that's individual. Maybe it's also because I'm a communications person, but I definitely felt the difference the first week or so that I was here, even though I was working and around people and meeting people, but didn't have that kind of personal connection with someone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, maybe it is an individual. Maybe it's personality. I don't, could have something to do.
Yeah, I think it's a number of factors, and I'm really curious to get feedback from, audience members who have chimed in with the different points of views, because I don't necessarily, I have my opinion, and I may come off as opinionated, which is, I think, fine, but I'm really curious to know, to hear other opinions as well.
Yeah, I agree.
The broad mind, because again, I don't mind pushing myself and transitioning.
Because you keep on pushing. Keep on pushing
my thoughts, my opinion, my perspective.
Right. But, also when you said something about that you were perfectly happy during COVID, you could have continued that. You're also at home with your family. So you were surrounded by people. It's not like you were home by yourself. So Stevenson said, I've been retired and no, I don't miss it. Okay. I've raised my kids. I have been through 3 divorces. Like many, my family is globally dispersed. I can read. I can finally define myself rather than so many defining what I should or shouldn't be or do, which is what the video said. If you are so codependent, that's your problem, but don't globalize it. Well, I don't know if it's codependence. I just enjoy.
Yeah, I'm not so sure. That's a leap, bro.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm codependent. Maybe I am. I don't know, but I just enjoy the present.
The fact is that I am a homebody. I spend most of my time at home by myself. My kids are, one daughter in high school still. My wife still works outside of the home. So I'm home by myself most of the time, and then I travel to speak.
Right.
And so I'm quite comfortable in my own skin, being home and being alone. But there is value in connecting with people. I don't really define that as being codependent. And it's great that again, each of us get to choose how we want to live.
Correct.
And so if we go back to the video that you alluded to say that once you get to 70, then this is a prescription. So in that way, I'm going to be very narrow-minded.
Right. But here's the thing. That person is also providing a way of thinking that doesn't apply to everybody either. So that didn't resonate with me. It didn't resonate with you. But they were saying that, well, that's the best thing nobody ever told you, that after 70, you could stay home. And when I looked at it and heard it, I was like, well, that wouldn't be the greatest thing that anybody ever said to me. So I think that was universalizing that message as well.
Yes, and that's the thing. Like, I'll be curious to know, stay home doing what? Do you mean stay home as in not to work again, be in the workforce? Okay, fine. But stay home, period. I'm not sure what that means.
I'm participating in this summit next week. I just had to record a 10-minute presentation, and a story that I told, and it may apply, it may not, but it has to do with purpose, right? And it was something very simple, and it had to do with after my surgery. So I couldn't move around a lot, as you couldn't, with you had double knee replacements. I had one hip replacement, but I couldn't do much for a period of time. And then one day, I was able to do the laundry, and it sounds something like, so the laundry, big deal, right?
Yeah.
But it was a sense of accomplishment. And when I did it, I said, wow, here I've just been sitting. Yeah, I was reading. Yes, I was doing other things. But it was a sense of actually doing something and accomplishing something that gave me a sense of agency and accomplishment. And it made me think differently about even mundane chores, which we're so routinized, but we're actually accomplishing something meaningful for our lives. And I just thought that in thinking about that in terms of this, that we all need some sense of accomplishment, even if it's something small. It doesn't have to be something, like you said, audacious. I think there's a sense of purpose that is needed in order to feel meaningful, I think.
Yeah, but even when we think about and draw the analogy between keep on pushing and life in general, the guy, is it Ken Stephen Murray? I'm sorry, forgive me.
No, that's okay.
The retiree, the 72-year-old gentleman. He transitioned. He transitioned from, let's say, going into an office, because he's retired now. Transitioned from being a parent who was raising young kids to now, I think it says, discovering himself. So that's what we talk about, and what we mean when we talk about keep on pushing. It does not necessarily mean having a flurry of activity, trying to climb Mount Everest or get around the world in 30 days. That's not what we mean. It's about transitioning in a way that makes you feel alive, make you feel like you're accomplishing something that's important to you.
Right, and I think that's the pivotal word there, accomplishment. I think we all have to have a sense of accomplishment in order to feel vibrant, to have some sense of purpose. I work in an industry, right, where people are living, right, but they're not accomplishing anything. They don't have a sense of purpose, of contribution, even into the environment where they are, and they're languishing. I see it every day. So Lenny says, I watched last week's show, and the video did not say that everyone should stay at home and withdraw from social relationships. It said that there is some merit in reducing the expectation that if you wind down social relationships, your life loses meaning, and it doesn't. But the title of the video was staying home is the best thing that nobody ever told you after the age of 70. That's what the title of the video was. And what Ken, who was joined me for the conversation, and I remarked upon that even though it talked about staying home, all of the images were images of traveling and images of places around the world. Now, maybe some of them gave a sense of calm and serenity, but we thought that was kind of like a contradiction visually. Here, this person was talking about staying home, and, yes, you don't have the expectation of, work and responsibility and family and everything that you had before, but all of the images were of all places around the world. So it was kind of antithetical visually to both Ken and I.
I was trying to see the last comment again, especially the last line about social interaction and expectation. Again, I don't know. I'm not, preaching that we should remain, try to remain the life of the party. in our advanced age, and and that is the thing that's going to give our lives meaning. But if I'm to go by what I understand, what you say, the video speaks to, staying home means cutting yourself off. And that, in my mind, especially at that age, can't be a healthy thing.
Yeah, and I actually thought it was interesting that it said after the age of 70. So I'm 73. Okay, now everybody is different at different ages. People are different at 50 and 60 and all of that. But I thought it was interesting because nowadays 70 is kind of like it's not what 70 was years ago, I think. It's kind of at the younger end of the older years, I think. And I think that's what struck me about that video, that 70 is young. 70, you've got so much more ahead of you. Now, obviously, it isn't for everybody. This talk that I'm doing about longevity and is, there are people that are 99 that are competing in triathlons, and that might not be for everybody, right? But, I think it depends on your mindset. There's so much more ahead of you. And what is the plan moving forward? And that's where I was thinking about keep on pushing. Is there some kind of plan moving forward? Not just a slowing down, but you're slowing down, and what is the plan when you're slowing down? Yeah.
You're at 70, clearly your most physically energetic years are behind you. But I have to believe that no matter your age, your best years are ahead of you. And so when you get to 70, it's not like, oh, it's time to put me out to pasture. Christ, you're still alive, you're still breathing, you're still kicking. So how do you make whatever time you have left on this planet mean something, be enjoyable, feel fulfilling?
Right.
So it could be that, you're reading and you're learning a new language or learning to play an instrument. Again, everybody's going to pursue something or ought to pursue something that is going to allow them to be fulfilled. And it's challenging for me to think that would not include the interaction with others.
Right. So Mel says, don't use the title to define the video. We're saying that this is an alternative lifestyle that is hidden, that it means cutting yourself off and a decline in purpose. The video said it is an option that has far too long gone unrecognized. Well, maybe that's a point. Maybe that's a point, Mel. Maybe it was giving voice to that and giving and validating that for people who were reluctant to say it or to acknowledge it or to, or felt that if they did say that, that they would be shunned by their family or friends. Or actually, at one point in the video, I think the guy did say, don't let people say to you, oh, you have to get out more, you have to do this more, you have to do that more, that be comfortable in your own decision. Mel said, yes, that's it. Right.
Well, that's hard to argue with.
Right. Well,
thanks for that, Mel.
Yeah, Devon, this was really terrific. And guess what? I'm looking forward to, hopefully we can run into each other soon. So just the basis of this whole conversation.
With two replaced knees and a replaced hip, maybe we should be doing too much running.
So, I as a matter of fact, I'm really thinking, gee, I hope we do run into each other soon. It would be different kind of conversation. So kind of what the basis of this whole thing is.
The video, or part of the premise of the video, is that when you get to 70, you should stay in. I'm not there yet. So I'll be out while you're running around. No. And I so appreciate all the folks who chimed in.
Yeah.
Make the conversation richer and definitely challenge my way of thinking. I don't mind, being challenged, because I think no one person knows everything. And if you get different points of view, then you're encouraged / forced to see things from a different perspective.
Well, and I think also, and that's where this interaction, talking about interaction, because it does, give you a sense of thinking on a different level and getting other people's opinions. So I think whatever kind of interaction it is, it provides something, right? It's stimulating. And I think that's what you and I are getting at, that it's stimulating, that you need some kind of interaction to stimulate your mind. You could stimulate your own minds. I'm not saying no through reading, and it could stimulate you, but the interaction or conversation makes it richer for me anyway.
Yes, for me too. Absolutely.
Well, thanks a lot, Devon. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Thank you. And thanks again, guys, for chiming in. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And, I know you're always traveling all around the world. So I really appreciate that you could make the time.
Well, I tell you, when I'm home, and I get to connect and interact this way as well. So it works.
Okay.
See?
Cool beans. Thanks a lot. Okay. You too. And now for next week's show. Ken Ashby has spent more than 3 decades bringing an innovative, collaborative voice to issues, causes, and brands across the public and private sectors as an entrepreneur and business strategist, executive producer, coach, author, speaker, and trainer. Ken is an award-winning singer, producer. He's published more than 200 songs, performed internationally for millions, earning an Ivor Novello Award for the UK chart-topping television theme song. Ken brings emotional clarity, melodic strength, and a collaborative spirit to everything he creates. And he is a co-writer of mine on a song, so I can definitely vouch for that. So remember to tune in, comment, and ask questions next week, March 4th at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Source TV Radio Network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stretch for it, it's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it, uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know, there'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play, I can make magic today.